Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the next Node Lifecycle Working Group sync. And like one thing, we still don't have the official working group. So we have asked SIG cloud provider to actually, they were very kind to offer us using their Zoom meetings. And so we will be using this until we have a proper Zoom meeting. Yeah, so I can try to share my screen. Okay. Yeah. So we have a couple of things to discuss before we can proceed with the work group creation. So we brought this our last result of our last discussion to the SIG node, and we had like a couple of other points that we have to resolve. And so basically, SIG node is like the main stakeholder in this, since most of the changes will be happening in their code repositories, or they like the functionality will be adjacent to what they do. And so we were they were mostly interested in us having properly defined the exit criteria of the working group. And last time we had this discussion here that we would like to keep the scope minimal, so like to have a better focus. And so we have, they had a bit different opinion on that. So and they would like to see the major efforts or issues that are still present in the ecosystem. And we had like a couple of points that would be good to add. So I mean, I think this is mostly for us like to have it well defined, like what's the direction of the working group, but it doesn't mean that even the exit criteria will not mean that we will prefer some of the efforts, or basically this is mostly as a forum to discuss these efforts. So even though we have put the node maintenance and eviction request and graceful node shutdown there, we will see what's the capacity of people working on these, and what actual issues come up, and what the things we want to discuss in this working group. So one of the main features that is being worked on currently is also the node readiness gate. I have taken a look at the cap, and I don't know if I have written to AJ. Maybe he's probably not here. Yeah, and so I mean the premise for the feature sounds reasonable, to have gates at the start of the node. I think there are a couple of still rough places that have to be solved before this is a proper feature. But I think the scope of the feature and the drive behind that is there. So I would like to add the node readiness gates also to the exit criteria. And we also had a request to consider the issues regarding the network and storage. So we have, for example, the issues that the pods are not removed from the endpoints when they are terminating, which can cause various issues. And then we have also the issues regarding the SIG storage, which we have here and here, for example, regarding the volumes, etc. So these are like quite important issues that would be nice to have in the working group to actually discuss. And yeah, so this is like to have the scope of the working group defined. So it's like this. I think it's mostly for better tracking. So it's like we do not like define priorities here, what should be done and what not. Like this depends on the SIGs. So like if anybody has some other efforts they would like to highlight in this working group, like please raise your voice, or like if anybody has like issues regarding our opinions on the exit criteria and the scope. I know like last time we had a bit different discussion. Yeah.
So I think Lucy brought this up before, but it made a lot of sense to me. Like I think when we talk about the exit criteria to begin with, I think it's probably better to like scope smaller and then add this notion of kind of reviewing it later so that if we need to expand it at a later time we can, but like not trying to bite off, more than we can chew in the initial working group. So like I thought limiting it to like the three that we had there or maybe even a subset of those or some activity around them. I think that makes a lot of sense, for initial efforts at least.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I didn't want to go first because I'm actually ill right now. But yeah, I completely agree with that. Also, yeah, regarding the whole SIG node thing, I spoke to Dawn on Friday about that and tried to maybe communicate the real pain that some end users feel because of a lack of some of these APIs, particularly eviction request. I think what is it? I think that my points were heard quite well, and maybe that might help when we next talk to Signode. I can't promise anything though. Um, but yeah, outside of that, I really don't want us to dilute our scope and then we end up basically doing 10 things in a half-assed way rather than doing a few things in a really good way. I get that people want this long, and I'm fine to define like a long-term vision, but I do not want to sign on a dotted line saying that this is exactly what we're doing and we're delivering like a million features over the next 5 years and we're planning it all today, because that never works. Plans never run like that.
Yeah, that made a lot of sense to me. And, like I have my personal, like what I would love to see come out of this working group, but like I think focusing on a couple of the core issues that affect everyone is probably like the best place for us to start.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, is there anyone who disagrees with that assessment? Please say something, because I'd be very interested to hear the counter argument here as well.
So yeah, I actually am not in favor like of one or the other side. So like we are trying to yeah, I understand what you mean, like that we should not try to do like thousands of things at the same time. That makes total sense. But I mean I think like it like mostly it depends on the like the availability of people or capacity people have working on these issues. And for example, when I was reading the node readiness today, I noticed like a couple of repeating patterns, and like I feel like this working group, even if we run into something later which is not defined here, that's concerning the node lifecycle or pod lifecycle, or usually it's also around scheduling and like auto scaling, etc. Other places. So like there are a lot of like similar issues that like it would be good to have like put our or some attention to them. And I think like the scope of the working group is defined in such a way that like we do not try to solve things like only like in a local maximum, or like we try to like focus on the whole, like try to like wrap our head around like all the bits and pieces that depend on each other. And for example, the node readiness tries to like frame it mostly as a like when we are like starting node, what are the conditions of making the node ready. But I think this like there are implications like regarding the whole node lifecycle. For example, when the node is restarting, or like some of the yeah. I will not go deep into that. So I feel like the scope of the group is as that we want to discuss like all the connected issues that might be like necessary to resolve. So even if we do not write anything into the exit criteria, or yeah, even then I think it's like these are good topics to bring up here. And we are also like looking, I think what we want to look mostly at is to actually bring up like the use cases. So what people like what problems are people running into like the most often. And let's say we are aware of some of these problems, like some of these issues people are having, but this will like crystallize over time, like when we do the working group. So if it happens that like most people are having problem in this area, then we might steer a bit into some other side. So I do not think like as defining these criteria is like a major hurdle in how we will operate these meetings. Yeah, I'm talking too long. I will give a hand to other people. I don't know who was first, if Jack or Fabrizio.
I'll go first. I just wanted to bring up a point that without defining specific work items or number of work items that we want to tackle as part of the exit criteria, one of the sort of like abstract exit criteria is to ensure that whatever we do isn't orphaned. And so I think that puts a burden on any single work stream. It makes it harder to do that because by definition, we're here because the various existing SIGs don't have the resources to do this work. So we're doing it sort of on behalf of the SIGs. But another part of that sort of just existential state is that we're going to have to give all this work that we do back to the SIGs for support going forward. And that's going to be challenging because they don't have the resources to do this work. And so I think it's wise to just think in terms of how do we minimize the number of work streams? Because I do think that predicts that we'll actually be able to exit, or we would exit in an irresponsible way, where we would do some things, and then we would just disband, and then there would be no one there to take care of those work streams. So I think as we develop work streams and we develop sponsors, we just need to remember that that sponsorship includes, or if the folks who sponsor do it casually, we need to remind them that you're actually signing up for supporting this forever, not just sort of weighing in and plus wanting it kept. Because the working group is not going to be around forever. And so when the working group disbands, someone has to support that. So this is just, I think, in support of Lucy's point that the fewer number of work streams we expect to actually accomplish, then we can actually predict that we will disband. Otherwise, we'll just be here forever. And that's not, I think, what anyone expects. Fabrizio, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to give my 2 cents on the scope discussion. So if I look at this, and I think to this idea of node life cycle, I think that this is mostly a thing that is bridging the gap between users and node. So it is an API that start and engage. Oh, I'm doing maintenance, and basically then delegates the various step of whatever doing maintenance means to something else. So in my opinion, definitely the declarative node maintenance is part of this group. Everything else I find a little bit less borderline, because we are entering in the mechanics that Kubelet has or other stuff has. So we can look at this, at least from my point of view, this group should, I'm a user, I'm using cluster PI, I'm using whatever system. I just want to initiate a maintenance, and then the system should help me get there. And another thread that is way, way nearer to SIG node probably, but also SIG up in some case, is do we have all the mechanics to make this happen properly? But I don't think if this group is going to take too much work from SIG node or SIG up, it's just not going to happen. It is too much.
Yeah, I worry that I'm preaching to the converted based on what Jack and Fabrizio just said. But yeah, I do get that we want like the flexibility to respond to things and things like that. But I think having such a tight scope gives us that, because we know it, when we are focused and when we know that we are going to do a few things and do them well, we can clear those. And then we can decide, do we want to disband? Do we want to take up on some more things that we've now learned that people care about? I worry if we don't do that tight a scope, that as people have said, we're going to be here forever, and we're not going to deliver anything to a very high level of quality because we're not going to be focused. We're just going to be bouncing between different issues with no real group focus on any one thing, hoping for the goodwill of maybe one person to drive each of these individual tasks. But yeah, I feel like I'm preaching to the converted here to some extent, but
yeah. Yeah, I absolutely get what you mean, but like like usually when you do something, you want to start small and then like not to overwhelm everyone. But I think like there are other considerations. So one is like usually like these things, like we do not define like what is worked on, or unless like somebody picks up the work. But there are usually like lots of like caps and features worked on in parallel, and some of these features are like intersecting or are like not complementary to each other. And I think like that's a huge problem today. Like what can so that we can have like multiple APIs, or for example today like when we have the post termination vectors that there is like too many of them. And even regarding the scheduling, there is like lots of competing things. And so I think there is like still value of like bringing these up. And I'm not really sure like if we are concerned about the maintenance. Like usually there is somebody driving these efforts, and if there is a need, like somebody will drive these and like pick these up. And it's also then it is up to the SIGs, like if they want to like take these efforts under their own wing, and if they want to support them or continue. So I mean, it can happen that if there is a feature that's done and nobody's interested in that after, then it can become stale. But like from what I saw, like for the two main features, like, or the main feature we want to do is no maintenance, like that should not be an issue. Like I think there is like a market for such a feature. And for the others, like nobody knows.
I mean, I don't think it's nobody knows. It's that I think this working group hasn't seen enough of end users. I work at what I think we're the biggest end user in the world now. I work at Uber, and I know for a fact that we're hurting because of a lack of eviction request. And I've communicated that to a few people now. But anyway, kind of going off track here. I just anyway, I feel like we're just going in circles now almost, but just yeah, I do strongly believe that we need to be focused here. And I do get what you're saying of, oh, maybe a contributor will bring it up, but fundamentally, when it's not supported by a SIG or a working group and it's a big cap, like normally these things get mothballed anyway, especially when it's just one person. Like I of course on in place resizing the niche alpha, Vinay just went absolutely insane, but he did have SIG node backing him when he did that. So yeah. Anyway, I'm yapping now, so I'll just. But I think the only other thing I want to say is, it's not that we're saying we won't do these extra things. It's we're just saying that we won't do it right now. It is not in any way saying we do this stuff, we never do this stuff. It is just an ordering and prioritization thing. And in no way is saying that the scope of this working group is to deliver 2 things and then immediately disband. It gives us the flexibility to deliver things at an actual pace and to build up the reputation that we do deliver stuff. Anyway, I'm going to shut up because Joel wants to speak.
Actually, Lucy, it was kind of you raised a good point there. Like, who on this call is from an end user?
Me.
Like, I can see obviously Lucy. I know that there's some Microsoft people here, some Google people here, Red Hat people. Do we have actual end users apart from Lucy involved in this group? Because I would really like to hear from them about the problems and the prioritization of like these different issues that we've raised. Because yeah, I kind of agree with what everyone else has said. There is a lot in this list. If we can scope down to these are the things we will tackle first. Once these are done, we will move on and prioritize the most important 2, maybe 3. I think that's the way that we'll get off the ground and actually get stuff done.
That's an open call. Is anyone else here an end user?
Yeah, I think like last time we had quite a bigger attendance than today. So I think maybe people are waiting for us to establish the group like before we start with the real topics. So we might not have that much today.
Could we go back to that list of APIs that you had?
Yeah, sure. So there is not APIs for everything yet, but these are the main things, and I believe there are others as well. And some of these are encoded also in the deliverables and here in the user use cases. Yeah.
To
Yeah,
drive
go
this,
ahead.
to drive this conversation forward, even if we're having this back and forth about scope, can we at least start to put things in that we do explicitly want in scope, or at least put things in that we do explicitly want to defer for now? Like, what is it? Like, what would I defer right now? I would probably defer allow the kubelet to trigger rescheduling, but that's just me. But can we maybe start to at least scope this list in some way?
Yeah, this list is just a list of references, so it doesn't mean we will staff these. So
I know, but if we're in this meeting, we might as well start to get some consensus.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, I heard well, I mean, AJ is calling out node readiness in chat, but I think Fabrizio called out the node declarative maintenance, cap. I mean, it's like that I tend to agree with what Fabrizio was saying about it having like broad applicability to like a wide group of users. I think all these things do at some level, but maybe, can we choose one that's going to have like the biggest impact kind of like immediately? and kind of work from there, I guess.
Yeah, Lucy brought up 3. I'd love to see just 1. Like, get some branding, like that working group. They're the node readiness work. That's what they're working on. That's just easier for humans to grok and sort of produce a mental model in their mind of like, oh, they actually produce concrete value.
I can give you one, but of course it's the bias of a single company. But for Uber itself is actually building the eviction request API inside the company because they need it that bad. Like they're literally taking the alpha cap and building the CRD inside the company so they can use it now. And that's going to roll to every single thing at the entire company, every cluster.
Interesting. Yeah, so I would like to push back a little bit. So like we have been working on these like 2 caps, node maintenance and eviction request for quite some time. And the plan was originally to just go with that and like bring some value like straight away for the users. But we've got like a different like perspective from the maintainers of Kubernetes. So like we had the discussion, and the result was that since these are such like major changes, like it's impossible for them to be merged basically. And like that's why we like created this working group. And like the mission was like to actually explore all the use cases, so we can have like an evidence for these features to actually push them forward. So if we can hear from like people as Lucy to that they are heavily dependent on these, and they would like some improvement in the core Kubernetes, and like this is like very good evidence for us to push this forward and get started with something. And like one other point was that like we had like this discussion, and so one point was like we need more evidence, and the second point was like that we do not create something massive like without considering all the other bits. So for example, regarding the node lifecycle, like when we create the node maintenance, then we should also like consider like the provisioning or deprovisioning of the node. Like it doesn't mean like we have to implement it, that we like need to create like some APIs for like VM management, etc. But we should at least consider it and make sure that like we are compatible like with any future ideas. So I get like this like point of view that we would like the to have the low hanging fruit and have something useful soon. But I feel like it's like pretty hard like to do that in such a way.
Why is that? Sorry, because maybe I didn't get it, but why is that? Why is it so hard?
Because you will get a pushback like when you try to merge these features or even the cap. And
we'll always get pushback for it. What is it for any cap? And we'll always get feedback from SIG Arch and SIG Node for any cap. But I'd rather we have that negotiation over a few of them than over a ton of them all at once.
Yeah, like that's the point. Like I'm yes, yeah, I just finished the sentence. Yeah, I would like to also focus on these, like, and not like give so much like effort to some other like adjacent like features. Like, but we need to like have a space for them to also like show us like what maybe we are missing, or what are some of the adjacent things like we should consider. And this goes also for the presentations of like people of having issues in these areas. So I think it's, yeah, it's like I don't think like we actually can like only focus on one thing. Yeah, Miko, please go ahead.
I mean, Lucy, go ahead and respond if you wanna respond to what Philip was saying.
Oh God, I'm gonna have to think on my feet now. But to me, it's not focusing on one thing though, because we're not saying we're only going to do one KEP. It's just ensuring that we do not end up with our focus diffused so much that we are not effective. Because I have seen this time and time and time again in the Kubernetes project, where we stall and bike shed because we do not focus. And then what happens with end users? Well, either we realize that we're strategically behind, and suddenly there's a huge push in one direction, the RA, or users just work around us and build their own, normally much crappier solutions than we could have built. Either of which, to me, is very much not preferable. I mean, this is a perfect example right now. Because eviction request isn't in the main line, Uber's just going to build it anyway. And I doubt we're the only ones doing that. Not maybe with the exact API, but fundamentally, the idea of synchronization around evictions is, I expect, something that most major companies have built for. At least when I've talked to other major companies, it seems like we've all got the same problems. We've all just built our own crappy proprietary way of solving them.
Sorry, taking a few notes there. I think like given the way we're talking about this and everything, like, yeah, I think you know, we can't just focus on one thing because we might, I think to Philip's point, yeah, it's like if a difficult question comes up, then we're just spinning our wheels or something. But in the other direction, like I kind of see the point of the working group. Philip had mentioned before, like, we're going to get pushback, we're going to get, questions or whatever. Like that's going to happen with enhancements and with the work that comes out of them. I think the point of this working group is that, yeah, like if we can pick a few of these things to focus on, maybe, I think I really liked what Natasha was saying in chat here. It's like we've got some people driving forward various enhancements. Can we use this working group to say, okay, for those of you who are like spearheading enhancements, when you do like work on the enhancement, when we gather feedback and questions from the wider community, like from SIG architecture and from the other places that are coming in here, can we use the working group then to help solve those questions or to help answer those questions? Or can we, when there's a blockage, can we come back to the working group to help drive things forward so that we don't get jammed up on any one thing? And maybe in that way, we could have 2 or 3 different pots like simmering on the stovetop. We could have like, AJ is looking into the node readiness gates. Maybe Lucy's looking into the graceful, the eviction request API or whatever. And then we come back here during our working group meetings to say, okay, what are the blockers around these? How can we as a working group help to, remove those blocks so that we can keep moving forward and get these things done? And maybe that's kind of the best way that we can operate as a working group. And Joel, I'll pass to you.
So I wanted to try and work out what the future would look like. Let's say we chose 1 or 2 of these KEPs and we then started getting more involved and we start driving them through. One, what kind of assistance do we think we're going to provide? And 2, at what point do we say, right, this is far enough along that we can then start looking at number 3, number 4, number 5 in our list?
For me, I think it's just that we would ship quicker, which would build credibility and incentivize more folks to work in the working group. And then that would unlock more effort towards the additional things.
I totally get the idea of like streamlining onto like 1 or 2 things. I'm kind of thinking of like for each of these KEPs that we, let's say we come up with an ordered list and we put, I don't know, eviction request at the top. At what point in an eviction request's life cycle do we then say, cool, we've done enough here, it's sailing along by itself, we can move on and start looking at graceful node shutdown?
I think it's very early to say or commit to anything. It's like, this is kind of a cop-out, but I would say I'll know it when I see it.
This is
Yeah.
the first time I'm really getting involved in a working group, so I'm not sure how these normally run, but I was kind of wondering, like, if that is our goal is to try and accelerate some of these projects, we
Because
need
formally you could say when the KEP's approved, but in theory, you'll probably the controversial parts of the design would probably be hammered out before then. But that's why I'm kind of saying it's kind of subjective, because it's a very human process, a design review fundamentally, and it depends on the very human reactions of people. So it's hard to say this early.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, it's a bit of a cop out.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, if I can, I think like usually or not usually, like it doesn't like mean that the working group efforts have to be structured. That like we have like doing a one feature then another, and like a lot of these features are actually like connected. So like they will be worked on in parallel, like even regardless like what is our capacity. I think like to me, I would not say like let's just stop one and not do others, but maybe we can just like see the topics what come up in the future, and like just decide like as a community, like if they are important to us, if we want to discuss them, what are all the like pros and cons of discussing these. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of agree with what you're saying there, Philip. I think, again, going back, I really like what Natasha said here in the chat. I think going back to that, it's like we have 3 topics. Like, Jack, I totally appreciate what you're saying. Like, I would love for us just to be like, all right, we can get this one done, get it out the door, and like we're good to go. But like currently, it seems like we have like at least 3 authors in here who are working on different enhancements that are all kind of like we've agreed are central to what we think the node lifecycle working group is. So I guess like my feeling at this point is like, okay, can we go to each one of those topics and say, okay, what is the blocker on each one of these? Is there something that we can do as a working group to help drive it forward? And I'm just gonna pick on AJ right now because AJ's name is on my screen. But like, AJ, you're working on the node readiness gates, right? So for example, we could say, all right, AJ, what are the blockers on node readiness gates right now? What is needed so that we could take this to the next step? And can we spend this like hour that we're here together to solve some of those issues that you see? And then, perhaps like when we go away from this meeting, we've answered some questions, we can get a little more progress on the node readiness gates. And then the next time we meet, we can come back and say, okay, what is the next thing there? Or maybe at that point, it's moving along far enough and we can say, okay, Lucy, is there anything that we need to do on, the eviction API? Like what can we do there? So maybe, we can have those kind of like experts who are looking at each enhancement or the drivers, come back to the working group to say, okay, these are the problems that I'm currently seeing. This is what we need attention on. Can people review the enhancement? Can you go answer these questions? Et cetera, et cetera. And I think I'll pass to Lucy.
Yeah, I just totally agree with what you just said. I just kind of wanted to expand on like the reasoning behind what I said in chat. Is just like I don't know about everyone else, but I know that Ajay is going to work on this node readiness, whether it's supported by this group or not. So my feeling is like we might as well include it in the discussion because it's relevant to everything else, and it's just like we're making progress on it. So I don't see any reason to exclude it from the scope. Is all.
Great. I'm glad that you went before me because this comes on to what I was about to say. I would like to get something out of this meeting, some consensus. So I would like to propose that the consensus is that we believe that we should prioritize eviction request, graceful node shutdown, node readiness. Those 3 KEPs from the list. Maybe we won't get all. Maybe we won't get all of the 3 that I just proposed, but can we at least prioritize some of those and come out of this meeting saying we agreed to this? Anyone disagree with me?
Yeah, maybe let's still discuss these points. Natasha, do you want to add something to that?
Sorry, I missed. What did you say? Oh, wait, no, I meant to lower my hand, sorry.
Okay, anyone
Yeah,
else?
yeah. So, oh, Joe, go ahead.
So I don't disagree with you, Lucy, but I haven't checked in on the status or read through most of these enhancements in quite a long time. So I wouldn't personally want to commit to that list of 3 until I'd had a chance to go back through them. I appreciate the sentiment, but
Okay.
would it
in
be
which
better
case-
to say by next time everyone should have refreshed their memory
Yeah.
and we will make a decision at the beginning of the next meeting?
Okay, yeah, I agree. So yeah, agenda item 1 of the next meeting is agreeing on those, and the initial proposal is eviction request, graceful node shutdown, node readiness, and we'll make a decision next meeting.
Yeah, I agree with
just
the initial proposal. I do want to refresh my memory.
Yeah, that's completely fine. I just what is it? The only reason I propose that is just I want us to drive some actual consensus out of this meeting, because I don't want us to just go on an infinite circular discussion for an hour, and then we come out with the exact same level of understanding that we went in with. So I just want us to drive towards consensus. But yes, is everyone happy with that at least? That agenda item 1 next meeting is agreeing on that?
Well, I mean, I think if we're gonna go review, like, we might as well add the declarative node maintenance enhancement on there as well, just to review them. And then I think, yeah, like, I agree, next time we come back, everyone's had a chance to look at those. We identify who are the drivers for each one, and then say, okay, what subset of these should we prioritize, or how should we prioritize them, or whatever.
Joe?
Yeah, that works for me. I was just going to say, I think let's make sure it's like a maximum of 3 caps that we focus on in the first wave. Any more than that, I think we're just going to be too spread.
I agree.
Yeah, I would like to add to that like I think there still should be like a condition that we are still open, like discussing the other caps and issues. So we are not just shut down to our group to only the things we are exploring, and see also like the bigger picture.
Okay, it's just, but every time we do that, we've just basically diluted our consensus and turned it into we prioritize this, but not really, because actually we're open to all of this. I'm just worried. I get the sentiment. I'm just worried that in terms of actual resources, we don't have the luxury of doing that without hurting our own productivity.
I mean, like for me, like it's like that it's about that we have the same, like the similar expertise, like in the same place, like in this working group. And when somebody is working on something very like similar, for example, even the node readiness, then it like concerns the similar applications and scenarios. So I think like we could even like see how it goes, and we could try to like vote on the spot, like what's our like next topic, and if we are more interested in some of the topics, we can like push some other topics like back down the pipeline. Joe?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify what open to discussing these other topics actually means. If, like, to me, if we say we're focusing on these 3 caps, but someone comes along and says, hey, I'd like to talk about this one for 15 minutes because I think it's relevant and I think this group will have expertise. And it is that commitment of, well, not even commitment of just like we'll give you 15 minutes. We're not committing to reviewing your enhancement. We're not committing to like actually helping drive the project. I can see that, but I think when we're, as we're like saying about where we're going to spend our time, where we're going to focus reviews and try and help move these along, that's where I think we need focus. So what are people thinking we mean when we say open to discussing the extra topics that are on the list?
Jack, if you wanted to respond, go ahead.
Okay, cool. Well, the sort of logical thing would be to just explain the sort of order of operations and priority that suggests that the working group doesn't have resources to actively engage on that, and then refer, if folks want to make immediate access, just refer to the parent SIG or SIGs that would be responsible for that normally. I think whatever kind of general idea about this working group people form in their minds as far as scope, it's not that we have exclusive access to that scope. Like SIG nodes still can drive work that may be defined under some like, you know, node lifecycle-ish definition, but that doesn't mean that we preempt SIG node. So I would say the message would be, we can get to that actively and evaluate that for priority after this and this and this milestone is achieved that has higher priority. If you want to make immediate progress, feel free to work with SIG node or any of the other SIGs that are here, SIG cluster lifecycle, SIG auto scaling. Does that answer your question, Joel, in terms of, I'm not saying that's the right answer, but does that make sense as an answer to that question?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, like to me that sounds reasonable, Jack. I think like we could define a process like in our like working group proposal, like to say like under what conditions we will discuss other topics and what is expected. So yeah, so we do not like disregard other things, but if we do not have like a capacity to work on these, or we can even define a process for upvoting the topics, and like then yeah, Joe.
Sorry, yeah, just to respond, I guess my concern is like we have this list and we say, right, we're going to work on ABC now and DEF later. If someone's actively looking at DEF and they come to our meeting and say, hey, I'd like to discuss this for 15 minutes, I don't want to turn them away and say, no, we're not ready for that. That feels, I don't know, doesn't feel like the right thing for me. But I get that we will say like, yeah, this is something we're planning to work on in the future. We're not focusing on it right now. Redirect as appropriate. Makes sense.
So I think like something that occurs to me as I'm listening to this and everything, right, is that like, one thing is like, what are we going to do as a working group to help drive things forward, right? We have people here who are here now who are already working on these enhancements and presumably looking into proofs of concept and whatnot, right? So to me, the whole point of bringing the working group together is you've got, all these people in the same place at the same time who can kind of share their experiences and everything, and we can help to drive these things forward, right? So to what, to kind of, I think Lucy and Philip are kind of like representing two different notions here, like at some respect, which is like, okay, we have to choose something to go first, or we have to choose some things to go first so that we can start focusing on those. And I think it makes sense to focus on the ones where we have people driving them forward, we have efforts that are already started, and the combined experience of the working group can help come together to advise on how to drive those forward or to solve questions on how to get them to the next state. Contrast that with the notion that, yes, we are a working group. We would like to talk about this wider range of topics, right? But we only have so much time in any given, week or whatever to look at these things and help drive them forward. So we need to prioritize some that we're going to focus on helping to drive forward and not close off discussion for other things. We want to be able to entertain those discussions, but I think we have to make it very clear that as a working group, if we're going to laser focus on getting one of these things across the finish line, that is kind of our priority, right? That we're going to be focusing a lot of attention on that. And so, yes, it's okay to bring other topics to the working group, but with the understanding that the working group isn't just going to all of a sudden change its priority because of a discussion that happened one week, right? We have to continue focusing to deliver on whatever we've decided as like the priority or whatever. Lucy, please.
Yes, of course. And I think maybe the thing to get some consensus to what we were saying just now is we're not saying, oh, we're not going to entertain discussion on things that are not prioritized. It's not a negative obligation, it's a positive obligation that we are going to ensure there is momentum and we are driving forward the KEPs that we decide to prioritize. We are in no way, and we cannot in any way say, oh, you can't work on that, that's not prioritized right now. Imagine saying that to a contributor. What we are doing more is having a positive signal that we are going, if any of the KEPs we prioritized are stalling, are not moving forward, that we are going to intervene. But if the ones we haven't prioritized are stalling, it's fine. We come back later. If someone wants to drive one of those forwards, and like there's some contributor who really loves one of these ones that we haven't prioritized, awesome. I've not got any issue with that. If they want to go for that and drive that themselves, not an issue. It is only setting what we as a working group will ensure is being driven forward. It is in no way putting a negative obligation on anyone that you can't talk about that, you can't develop that. Definitely not. And I just want to clear up in case that was a misconception.
I mean, no, like that makes total sense to me. I think I just think we have to be clear as a working group that it's like, okay, we're going to focus on these things. These are the ones that are a priority. But if you come with a new discussion topic, realize that the assembled people here who are trying to focus on getting, whatever things prioritized through, they've only got limited time to review enhancements and whatnot in a given week or review code or whatever. So if it's a new topic coming into the working group's queue, there might be some time before the brain trust or whatever is able to focus on these things. Jack.
Yeah, Lucy makes a really great point about the sort of gatekeeping aspect of what we would provide the community, especially for unsolved kind of like on the table work streams. It should be made clear that anybody who has the gumption can make forward progress on that. At some point, of course, the gatekeeping does become necessary at, like, say, KEP approval time, because that's going to require coordination maybe across 3 or 4 KEPs, which is the value that we provide. But for the prioritized item, that's the area where we could say, well, this is already an in progress work stream, so you're welcome to contribute, integrate with these existing efforts, welcome along. But I think for things that we deprioritized, especially if they're early, there's nothing we can do to stop folks from independently making progress.
Yeah, so like to wrap this up, I will try to take this input of all of your opinions and like try to come up with a process that we can reference in the working group, how we will approach all the new work that's coming our way and all the things we are interested in, and try to balance this out somehow. So like we are not gatekeeping, but still have a preference and for the features we want to drive. Yeah, how does this sound, everyone? Yeah, I would like to ask first AJ, like since he's on the other side, if he has like any thoughts on this.
Hey, thanks, Philip. So, sorry, I missed the early part of the meeting, so I don't know, like, if this priority discussion was already handled. So, I like to where I like the working groups expertise could help. Not really necessary. I'm only working on specific use cases, like with the 6 that showed matching interest, or like that node readiness could solve. But working group specifically solves, like this formation is like node lifecycle, like node readiness I felt fit well in this group. And we have experts who had use cases, or like who are representing node lifecycle from multiple companies could pinch in. It could help shape what node readiness could look like, and help you also make sure like none of the important use cases are missed. That's where I felt node readiness could benefit from this working group. Not in the focus of delivering this, or like I understand that like the priority of this group could be entirely different, but I felt it felt in here. But if this group feels that like okay, like there are other things that are more important or more priority for this working group, I think that like then could drive for the use cases that are like the 6 that particularly interested in driving this forward. I think that's where I am at right now. But we're very much happy to see this part of this group and deliver it for the use cases that we are solving.
Awesome. We're coming up on time. Can we agree that we will decide prioritization as the first item next week? And in the meantime, we're all going to go away. We're going to have a look at the KEPs on that charter list and familiarize ourselves so that we can have that full discussion as the first thing next week. Is everyone okay with us agreeing that right now?
Yeah, that sounds great. I will yeah, I will create a new section in the proposal, like regarding the prioritization, and link it in our doc. And like we can also collaborate on the prioritizations in the PR, so we can have an async way to actually decide on that, and we do not have to like dump everything like in the next meeting. And like to add to continue what AJ said, like we have a focus on other things, but like if we have the capacity, we would like to be like helpful in any way we can, like if some people are interested in reviewing the Notre-Dame or other features, and we would like this like as a forum to actually help these use cases. But yeah, like the final point is like let's synchronize as in the PR on the priorities, go through the caps, and then maybe we can wrap this up like next week on Monday.
Lucy has her hand up. Did you have one more comment?
That was me forgetting to lower it.
Okay, no worries. I mean, it happens.
No, not an issue. I was.
Okay.
It sounds good to me, Philip. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for the discussion. I will also try to like share our opinions in a SIG note tomorrow, since there is a bit of like a different view there, and like let's continue on making this successful. Thanks everyone.
Awesome. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks,
Thank
Philip.
you.
Yep. Later, everybody.
Bye.